Welcome back to the Cinema Crash podcast. It's been a while since last time. I'm your host Carl, and joining me is my wonderful co-host Aska.
Hello, hello.
Aska, we took a bit of a break,
That is true. We've been gone for, I guess, like 3 months almost now. No, 2 months. I don't know.
something like that.
Time,
Yeah,
time is fake. Yes.
yeah. We took a little bit of a summer vacation. Um, you guys came to visit me in Sweden. That was pretty fun.
Yeah, that was very fun. We watched a lot of movies.
We did watch a lot of movies. And then after that, it's been. Well, I've started uni and moved halfway across the country, and you've been kind of slowly teasing your way out of uni, I guess.
Yeah, I stopped going to uni and started working or something like that.
Something like becoming working class or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But we are back, and we're really excited to talk about some movies. We did manage to finish up our miniseries on Mika Ninagawa before taking the break. Um, and so we figured now that we're back, we're going to start our next part of this whole like directorial deep dive miniseries thing that we're exploring with the podcast. And the next director we settled on is going to be Guy Ritchie.
A British fella.
A British feller. Um, Oscar, why did we settle on Guy Ritchie to do
Uh,
as our next director?
Yeah, so if you're looking at our history of podcasts, there's a lot of Japanese stuff there, which is reasonable because I'm very interested in Japanese stuff, and mostly it's me telling Carl to watch films, and then we do podcasts about them. But we wanted to go away a bit from that, right? Like focusing, we didn't want to make like spend another half a year on another filmmaker. So we were looking for someone interesting, who is preferably not like as talked about. Guy Ritchie is fairly well known, I think. Like his most popular film, Snatch, which we will talk about, has like almost 400K views on Letterboxd. So definitely more well known than the average like 2,000 views on like Ninagawa films. But yeah, we watched two of his films so far together, and we both found that there's a lot of interesting stuff to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the key difference, I guess, is that this time we won't be talking about every film. He's done too many for that. We don't want to spend that much time on it. We've chosen like 4 or 5 films that we'll talk about. Um, we're going chronologically, so we are starting with his debut film. We also really like Jason Statham, so
We
we took.
do really like Jason Statham.
So today's film, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, was actually Jason Statham's debut film.
Yeah.
So that was a good. Like we've been thinking about just doing a Jason Statham series, but then we thought, basically the same. So we will be taking like basically just films with Jason Statham. There's that one film with Madonna that we are still considering. Uh, right, where he was like where Guy Ritchie became a wife guy and made a film with his wife, who was Madonna. Um,
Well, if Madonna was my wife,
yeah, right. It's like the same with Paul W.S. Anderson and
Mm-hmm.
Mila Jovovich. If
Mm-hmm.
Mila Jovovich is your wife, why not show her off? Same with Madonna.
True. True.
Um,
Mila Jovovich, if you're listening, come on the podcast
if you want to get divorced.
if you want to get divorced.
Uh, yeah, no. So yeah, we're focusing a bit on like Jason Statham and Guy Ritchie together, and then like if we find anything other interesting, because this time we're also talking about more films that we haven't seen, that both of us haven't seen. When we talked about Ninagawa, I had already seen all Ninagawa films. This time we've seen the first two films, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, and Snatch, and everything else will be first-time viewings for us as well that we'll talk about, right?
Yeah. So like Jason Statham, he's been a bit of a meme in our friend group for a while now, uh, because of the Fast and Furious movies,
I mean,
I
I've
guess.
been I've been talking about him before, right? Like, so I for uni I had to watch Crank, And my
Right.
opinion of Crank and Crank 2, I watched both of them even, if I remember correctly, was that they were stupid. And then I watched them on like increased speed and under the influence of, I think, coffee and energy drink, because I had a deadline and I needed to finish these movies very fast. And that feels like the intended viewing experience. And I love Crank so much. It was so much fun. So I was like, okay, Jason Statham is great, actually. And then that carried into like us watching Fast and Furious together and like other films, right?
Oh, we also played Jason Statham's Great Vacation.
Yeah, the like
I
one
think that's a
shot
big part
tabletop
of it.
thing,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, exactly, right. Um,
Uh, yeah, and he became a bit of a meme because, like, at least in my head, he was always like a just a action
mm,
movie guy, like a Bruce Willis or whatever. But we did find ourselves especially smitten with him, or at least I did when
mm,
we did our Fast and Furious marathon, and he ended up being like the best part of any movie he was in.
mm. I think there's like this theory I have about models who become actors. It's not necessarily about that, but all my examples are models who became actors. Like actors who know their screen presence and can really use their screen presence to draw attention to them. And my prime examples for that are like, they don't need to be critically acclaimed, right? They don't need to be like Tom Hanks or something. But my prime examples are Mila Jovovich and Jason Statham, both former actors, models who became actors, and both like even though their films are kind of derpy in a lot of cases, right? Like Resident Evil films are everything but critically acclaimed. They are so much fun just because these actors really sell that the films are enjoyable,
Hmm.
right? They take that seriously and they have like such an immersive presence. Yeah, and Statham is great at that.
For sure, yeah. Um, and yeah, eventually today's movie, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, we watched it in the group watch. Or,
Hmm.
well, you missed the first half hour, but most of us watched the whole thing
Yeah,
for the group watch, and it was really enjoyable, right? I think everyone came out of that movie finding it
yeah.
really enjoyable.
It's probably not what we expected, right?
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
but
Um,
like, yeah, it's a very fun film, especially also to watch with a group.
yeah, and we did mainly watch it because it was Jason Statham's debut.
Yeah, I think Ali had already like recommended the film to me. And then I was like, okay, Ali recommendation is always good. Also, it's Jason Statham debut. I'm gonna throw it in. I think
Hmm.
that's how that worked. Maybe it was someone else, but I don't know. Right.
Doesn't really matter.
Yeah, exactly.
It owned, and
Yeah.
Jason Statham was really good in it. Uh, Arguably better than he is in some of his current roles. Although I'm not saying that's because of him. I'm saying maybe he's been a bit too typecast
Eh,
recently.
I mean, he was one of the best characters in Fast and Furious.
Yeah,
That's
but
not.
the competition wasn't that stiff either. Sorry, Uncle Dwayne, if you don't
Yeah,
know how to act.
that's true.
uh, we also watched Snatch while you guys were here. It's also really good.
Yeah.
It's also a Statham Guy Ritchie joint.
Yeah, just a very
Uh,
similar film, just more refined, right?
yeah, and we basically agree that, like, yeah, we like the vibe of these Guy Ritchie films. We love to talk. We want to talk about Jason Statham. We want an excuse to talk about Jason Statham.
Also, just like so fascinating how, for every anime fan listening to this, Durarara and Baccano, right, these like super famous anime and light novels are so heavily taking from the whole vibe of
Hmm.
both these films. So, both the anime openings, which are very well known, right, because they just they ooze style with like the
Yeah,
character introduction. It's just one to one taken from Snatch, which is already perfect in how it does that, right?
yeah, I love that vibe.
And the general like style of the films. So if you are listening to this, you don't know who Guy Ritchie is, but you do like Baccano or Durarara, do watch these films, right? It's this
Hmm.
whole like ensemble cast, or like Yeah, I think it might be a mosaic cast, but like I don't fucking know the difference. I forgot.
Me either.
Yeah. Um, yeah, right. Just everyone doing their thing, and like it's all somehow tied together. And even though these groups don't like actively interact with each other, at least not knowingly, they all come together at the end, and then nobody gets anything.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. No, that's a vibe that definitely resonated with me
Yeah.
while watching this movie.
And if you do know what we're talking about and know other films like this, please do tell us about them.
Yes.
Just gotta find more films like this. Specifically, like Guy Ritchie just nails it so good
Yeah.
already. Uh,
Should we say a couple words about what the movie is about?
yeah, yeah.
Do you wanna describe
All right.
the what happens on the screen?
Yeah, so Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels is about this group of four friends, very tight knit friends, who are trying to make some quick money. But due to some like in a poker game, right? They all like go in with the money and expect a return, but due to some issues, this very shady poker game, they are now £500,000 in debt. Um, by the standards of now, that's probably like $100. That's a joke about the pound crashing. Um,
Uh,
no, so they are in deep shit. They have 1 week to get that money back. So they try to get a scheme, and that interacts with like another group of like criminals who are trying to rob some wheat. What do you call them? Not farmers, right? So, there's a gang that grows wheat, and these guys want to steal from them, and then like our gang wants to steal that money and the wheat from them and then sell it, right? And then the money lender wants some like antique shotguns, and then like somehow they get them, and like there's just like this like very complex web of interactions that's all about like it ultimately just comes to can they get the money and pay it back. Well, so much stuff happens that they are not aware of, right? And in
yeah.
that way it's very much comedy of errors, right? Like something
Yes.
unexpected happens because another group was also like after the same thing. uh yeah, that's just basically what it is, right? You just watch this like stuff get more complex, and as it unfolds, as we are introduced to like more relationships between the characters. um yeah.
Yeah, it's like an episode of Always Sunny mixed with like Durarara. It's it's the best way I can describe it. It's just shit happens and uh profit.
um, yeah. So how do we go about talking about the film then? um
Well, I guess we already given like our
yeah,
thoughts. We both really like it.
yeah, exactly.
Like from the first scene where we have Jason Statham peddling his wares.
Yeah,
Uh,
right.
it's just such a great entrance. It's such a great debut for him as well, right?
mm,
Like so charismatic. He really sells it.
yeah. There's Yeah, we get introduced to the cast all with their like own kind of quirks and stuff, right? Like just the way the four guys have like their specific quirks in a way, right? Jason Statham is
Hmm.
like the street peddler. Then Ed is, I think, who's really good at cards. Not because he's a cheater or something, just because he's really good at reading like reactions. Um, Tom is just
He's a sales guy.
yeah, exactly. He's like he's just really good at selling stuff. And then the last one, I forgot his name.
Oh, soap.
Soap, right? Who's just really proud of not being involved in anything illegal. Though he does turn out to be like uncomfortably experienced with like how to be intimidating, how to do like a criminal job, which is also
Yeah,
very good.
I love
Um,
the scene where he just has a bunch of knives,
mm,
presumably brought from the restaurant or whatever.
yeah.
And then he pulls out
Oh,
like a machete.
yeah, and then later he's right, like, oh yeah, right, like a gun is intimidating, but you want to have knives because who you are threatening will know that you like knives don't make sounds, so you are more likely to use them, and that's why
Hmm.
knives are more threatening than guns. And
Hmm.
it's just like, what the heck? Why do you know this? Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, like the main cast of this movie is so good, and I
Yeah,
love how distinct, like the entire cast is extremely distinct given
yeah.
how little screen time some of them get, right?
Hmm.
Because there is a fairly large cast. We've got our main four, and then we've got Harry the Hatchet and his
Mm-hmm.
goons. We've got the two like Home Alone burglar types.
Mm-hmm. We've
We
got
have
yeah,
the
Vinnie Jones and his son, right?
yeah, we have Nick the Greek, of course.
Mm-hmm.
How could I forget? We have the weed growers. We
Mm-hmm.
have the other burglars that live next door.
Yeah.
And then there's also the very short black man who is
Yeah, Rory Breaker.
extremely unhinged.
Yeah, and again, all their like connections are like really like like there's like a snappy rhythm to it that
Hmm.
is more commonly associated with someone like one like Edgar Wright, right? Like I think these films are definitely prototype Cornetto trilogy in a way. Um,
Yeah, for
just like
sure.
the way the rhythm works and everything,
Yeah,
and
better though.
I mean
Hot
that's
take, hot take.
that sure is a hot take. And like right the way like it introduces us to these characters and like their relationships with the relevant like with whoever is relevant to them. It's like really snappy and good.
Yeah,
There's like only one relationship I would have liked to that I go into more, and that's Rory Breaker, the like black guy who's like basically is a drug lord, right? And the wheat growers who
yeah,
work for him, but that's like not really made clear enough in advance, right? Because we know that the gang is trying to sell the stolen wheat to Rory Breaker before we know that it's his wheat.
yeah.
Um, and that I think would have been more fun if we had already known that.
That's true.
But it becomes clear very quickly. And otherwise, right, it's just this very snappy. There's like a lot of like jokes that are just rhythmic repeating itself. Like, right, someone says like, "Man, I forgot the one thing, but it was someone asking something, someone saying it back to them as like confirmation, and then them asking again, and just like in a rhythm that really like flows, right?"
Yeah, yeah. No, for sure. Like the pacing or like you say, the rhythm of this movie.
Mm,
Uh, like that's a make or break thing when
for
it
sure.
comes to a comedy, and
Yeah.
this is exactly my kind of thing because it doesn't linger a millisecond too long on any one joke.
Yeah.
It gives you exactly enough time to for the joke to land, and then it immediately keeps going
Mm,
because it is a narrative that's constantly moving forward. It's not the Big Bang Theory where you have to leave room for the applause and laugh track. It's
mm,
just the absurdity of the situation that is the funny thing, and you don't need to leave any space for that.
There's
There's a
also
burning guy running out of the bar,
yeah,
and they take half a second to look at him before entering. That's
exactly.
funny.
And then there's later the callback that explains is like why he's there, and it's so good.
Yeah. You don't need to have a scene where they're like, did a burning guy just run out of this bar? Should we really go
Mm.
into this bar?
That is probably also just like the best joke in the entire film, right?
It's really funny.
Like even just like the like minuscule details, right? Them going there, and then later in the film it is revealed like right they are there, and like there's Rory Breaker, the drug lord, and he's watching someone on the public TV, and Jason Statham is like, oh, can we tell him to like turn that off or turn that down, right? And the barkeeper is like, you can, but like I wouldn't, right?
Yeah.
And then Jason Statham is like, oh, can you turn that down? And Rory Breaker says no, and Jason Statham, right, he's intimidated, and like the others make fun of him that he doesn't talk back. And then later it's revealed what happened just beforehand, which is someone talked back to him. So Rory Breaker set him on fire. And like
Yeah.
that's already great, but just the detail that that it was also three guys sitting at the exact same like spot where Jason Statham and the other two were then sitting, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
That's like just so good, like like the vision of like how this joke works at its best, like recreating the whole thing.
And it's also it's very confident, right? The drawn out setup punchline.
Mm,
You get the setup. Why is there a burning guy running out of the building? And you don't get the answer until, at least
mm,
another 15 minutes into the movie. And I not every movie has that confidence in its audience
yeah.
to pull something off like that. Also, just like the nature of the characters in the movie is inherently funny, like not as a joke, but just
Mm,
like the dynamic between our main four, right?
mm,
The way
yeah.
they interact, like the happenstance of the situations they get into, and how they, like when they're gonna rob the robbers and they can't find a place to hide, or we already mentioned like with the knife stuff. Yeah, just all of that. It's really, really good comedy.
Oh, yeah.
The final scene as well, obviously.
Mm.
Uh, Big shout outs.
Yeah, there's just so many good jokes in this. What very pleasantly surprised me on rewatch, which I didn't even notice the first time, right, was when Nick the Greek goes to Rory to like sell the weed, right, like make the contact for the gang. And first time he's there, he gets a drink, and when he leaves, he like wants to put it down and like
Yeah, he
accidentally
breaks the
smashes.
glass
He
table.
breaks the glass table. Second time he's there, he goes to put it down, but they just remove the glass from the table, right? Because it's
Yeah,
broken, of course.
yeah,
And then the third time, when Rory the Breaker is like really mad, there's like a guy coming from the back with a drink, and he just
yeah. He does. Yeah, he
stops.
gets a drink.
Yeah, that's it's so good.
Yeah, yeah. It's the attention to detail is really,
Yeah,
really
and then
something else.
obviously the acting, our main guys, Jason Statham and Vinnie Jones,
Oh
are,
yeah,
they just stand out so much in this film.
yeah. You think this is Jason Statham's movie from the get go, and then Vinnie Jones comes in. It's like, okay, maybe you can share.
He should be in there a bit more, but he is definitely, he's the guy.
Yeah, and like that's not to say the rest of the performances are bad. Like
Mm,
almost every performance in this movie is pretty stellar. And the dialogue is like witty and snappy, and like the way it is portrayed by the actors,
mm,
the way the lines are spoken, everything feels deliberate, everything feels snappy and witty and fun and good.
for sure, for sure. I do hate the dad though, like Ed's dad.
Yeah, he's kind of an asshole,
He's very much an asshole. Like
but maybe that's why his kid turned out that way.
I mean, fair. I mean, Ed is a very like stand-up guy, right? He's not doing anything criminal, actually.
Well,
Like not initially, right? Like,
not
of
not
course, he
initially.
needs the money, but like,
I mean, he's kind of helping Jason Statham fence stolen goods.
sure, but like, I mean,
He's criminal adjacent.
are they even stolen, or is it just like plagiarized, like fake stuff, right?
I think they are implied to be
Probably
stolen.
they fell off a truck.
Yeah, something like that.
uh,
Probably.
yeah, no, like of course, right? But
I
like
mean,
it
he's more on the con
yeah,
artist side of things in the
yeah.
beginning.
It works also just because like the relationship between the main four is sold really well, right? They
Yeah,
really feel like best friends,
yeah,
like a really tight group. So like, sure, of course, he helps his buddy.
yeah.
Uh,
But yeah, like his dad is kind of an asshole, but also like dads were kind of assholes back then. A lot of them
True.
still are.
Shout out to the 90s.
Shout out to dads. Where are you?
Oof. Yeah, no. What else was there that we can talk about? That's really like we're just on the extra scuffed episode, right? Coming back and
Yeah, we are a bit rusty. I mean, we're laying the groundworks, right? This movie has a lot of stuff going on. It's not a linear thing either.
Oh yeah, the one thing I wanted to talk about is that you can really feel that Guy Ritchie comes from music videos.
Right. Yeah.
He used to work in advertisements and music videos, and there's a few scenes where the music takes like over, and you have like more montage style. Right? There's that. I think most notably, like obviously there's the intro a bit also when Jason Statham and Ed, whose actor's name I forgot, they run away from the cops, right? With the like freeze frame kind of thing while the music plays. There's when Ed loses at a poker game, you have
Hmm.
this like camera very close to his face, like tied to his body basically. So as he moves very like absent-mindedly, it moves with him. His face
Yeah.
is always in the center of it. That is something that felt very music video, very advertisement like, something that you would employ in those for an effect and not in conventional filmmaking at the time. Later, when they steal the money and have like they go out drinking because they have way too much money. Um,
Oh, I love that scene.
yeah, right. Like
God, I wish that were me.
it's a lot of like shot up, sped up, and slowed down shots, which that like playing with time in that way is like a very music video kind of thing.
Hmm.
Especially if you look at like 90s music videos or like early 2000s, where you will probably have the same as some Latina shakes her ass, um, because those were the times. Uh,
Those were the times.
those were the times. That's what music videos were back in the early 2000s.
We peaked
Uh,
as a society.
yeah, and like there's like just like at the time of recording yesterday, we watched Swiss Army Man by the Daniels, right?
True.
Who also more commonly known nowadays as the directors of Everything Everywhere All at Once, right? They also come from music videos. Just before we watched the film, I watched wait,
Turn
for,
down for what?
yeah, Turn Down for What? That's the one, not Who Let the Dogs Out. Easy to confuse, both with W's. So Turn Down for What? The music video. I watched that and like you can see the similarities for sure, right? But those films, like Everything Everywhere and Swiss Army Man, don't feel like they are music videos turned into films.
No.
Uh, while Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels a lot of times felt like that. And then again, we go into the whole thing, the importance of rhythm, right? To like dialogue, to jokes and stuff. And that's obviously also something that is important to music. Because
Hmm.
like, you can't do music without like, a snappy rhythm, and you can't do music videos without supporting that snappy rhythm. And that's really what Guy Ritchie immediately as a filmmaker stands out. And
Yeah. I mean, it bears mentioning as well that like the dialogue in this movie is really good and witty and snappy, and I love it. But the movie also like stands on its own like through visuals.
mm,
Like you could watch this movie on mute without subtitles and you would get it.
there's like a lot of shots that also take this like very not artsy but very immediately leaving an impression kind of shots, where you have like the characters specifically like the introduction for little Chris, Vinnie Jones's son.
Hmm.
He's he stands against a wall at like 2/3 of the screen, right? Which immediately looks like something you could use as a wallpaper or something a music video would start on. And then from
Hmm.
the other side, from the like empty side, Vinnie Jones drives in on his car, which was just a shot that immediately screamed, "This is something that is made to immediately leave an impression."
Yeah.
And that's again something from advertisement and music videos, because in a conventional movie you do have more time to leave an impression. First impressions are still important, but you do have more times. But this film is like every impression counts, because every second counts.
Yeah. Yeah. And like setting the scene as well, right?
Yeah.
Like you have these semi quick shots of like the location, right? Like
Mm,
one a big one is uh what's his name? Harry the Hatchet?
mm,
Like Harry's sex shop is
yeah.
where he hangs out, and you have the neon sign, and it adds a
Mm,
lot to the atmosphere and just like the grimy kind of urban vibe of the entire movie. There's
No,
like a
that's just
sepia filter over the entire thing as well.
that's just how it looks in the UK.
Yeah,
That's just London.
God, I'm happy I don't live in England. Shoutouts to the Queen of England, by the way. She's dead now.
She did us a real favor and just like dropped dead.
Yeah,
Uh,
she was alive last episode.
I hope she's not alive again by the next one.
Stay tuned.
Lizzy 2,
It is
Judgment Day.
October.
Yeah.
We're going to be October.
She already was like a Halloween scare when she was alive.
True. Maybe she'll pull a Swiss Army man. Just
Queen
take a
Lizzy
massive
farting.
shit across the Atlantic.
Uh,
Regardless.
yeah.
No, that is what England looks like, I guess.
Yeah, I do love the very heavy film grain.
Yeah, for sure. It does a
Specifically,
lot.
right, as a 1999 film, when like it just started being like more digital filmmaking, right? Like obviously there was digital filmmaking before, but 1999 is also the year The Matrix released, which changed everything.
True.
um so like just going like it definitely looks like a 1999 film, right? Again, there's this like modern kind of style to it. I feel like, but it also looks like a like 70s home movie,
Yeah.
right? Just like the like, man, there's so much grain you could like probably make a brandy out of it, or whiskey, or I don't know which one takes like grain.
Alcoholic beverage.
Yes.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
I'm a film student, not an alcohol student.
I am an alcoholic.
Great.
Next
um
question. No, like a lot of the shots in this movie were a bit jarring, but I think that can also be penned back to his background in like music videos. Like there are some shots, primarily with the big henchman. I forget his name.
mm,
He throws a hatchet at the end.
he's not Harry the Hatchet, but
No,
yeah, I
but
don't know his
he
name.
is his
Oh yeah,
bitch.
he
Uh,
is for sure.
like quick snapshots to him, like POV style, yelling into the camera
Mm,
with very large like movements and very like almost spitting all over the camera.
yeah,
And that feels like something you would see in a music video, more so than a movie.
yeah,
But like still effective, still
yeah.
unique.
Also,
It's
like
not a complaint.
much like Ninagawa, it doesn't feel experimental, right? It is
Yeah.
unconventional, but not experimental. Like again, I mean, the comparison to Swiss Army Man is just like really great. Swiss Army Man had some things that just felt like much more metaphorical and like experimental, just like throwing shit against the wall and seeing what sticks in that way.
Hmm.
And Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels doesn't do that. It really feels like everything is deliberate, right? It like it doesn't try out and see if it has the effect that it wants to have. It knows what effect everything has and uses that, even though they are non-conventional techniques.
Yeah, exactly. Like our favorite word is deliberate, and this movie is deliberate.
It is. Yeah, and that's really good, right? Like we've got a type of film that we talk about on the podcast, and it's like specifically these kind of films in that way.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Who was your favorite character in the movie?
I mean, it's Vinnie Jones. Uh, like, I mean, of
It's
course,
hard to beat Vinnie
yeah,
Jones.
it's like the top three are for sure Statham, Vinnie Jones, and Rory Breaker,
Hmm.
who's again the actor's name I don't know. I think those three are definitely like the like have the best performances and are like the most engaging to watch characters.
Yeah.
But as you mentioned before, all of them are great, right? Like even the Wheat Bros are really fun to
The
watch.
weed bros are pretty fun. I love that the weed stereotype goes back that far. Like a stoner dude.
Mm,
Rory Breaker gets some really good lines.
yeah.
Is this some sort of white cunt joke that black cunts don't get?
How did he do a racism?
How
Um,
did he do a racism? No, I love like him talking to Nick the Greek as well. He's like, if you don't do this, I'll kill you, and if you do this, I'll kill you. In fact, you're gonna have a lot of trouble staying alive right now.
yeah, I think
It's a really good showing.
I do also love, and this is like mostly in favor of like Harry and Rory, right, the two big bosses, that they are still like honest enough, right? Like so,
Hmm.
when Rory says that to Nick the Greek, it's like uh, he knows that Nick isn't like responsible for this, or like
Yeah, they're not Bond villains.
yeah, exactly. It's like just nice nuance there. And Harry later he gets the money from Vinny, not from the gang, right? So he could just be like, "I've never seen your money. Give me your fingers."
Hmm.
But he is like, "Okay, I've got your money," and like, right, what's done is done. You paid me back.
Yeah, I mean
Um,
they're just dudes, right? And even
yeah,
like Harry threatens to take their fingers and stuff, but then he sends Vinny to try and get the bar instead, right?
mm,
It's
yeah,
it's a more down to earth showing of like semi criminal mafia life, right? This isn't The
mm,
Godfather. This isn't a Bond villain. This is just like street thugs level stuff. And
yeah.
even like Rory, he's kind of unhinged, but he's shown to have like a good relation with his gang,
Mm.
right? Like if you ask him to change the channels, he'll give you one chance.
Yeah, for also he like likes to watch his races, and like if he can't
Yeah,
watch them at home, he watches them at a pub. Like there's
yeah,
just like a lot of very humanizing things.
yeah.
So that's really really good. Like something that just especially nowadays, you wouldn't get.
Yeah, and like a lot of the things that happen, like the comedy of errors type stuff, also comes from like these supposedly intelligent, like leader type dudes doing very dumb shit or semi
Mm,
dumb shit, like hiring someone who's too stupid for the job, or who takes the instructions too literal, or being too secretive with what they're actually robbing, right?
mm,
And then them just like doing violence to try and solve things.
for sure. Yeah. I think we can already like go into the last part. I think,
Yeah.
which would be so we've already laid the groundwork for some Ritchie-isms,
Hmm.
guy moments, guy funny moments. Maybe some of
Don't
them are
do it. Don't do it.
maybe some of them are related to families. um,
Don't do it. God damn.
you what do we expect from future films? So we've seen Snatch, we've seen his second film, right?
Yeah, I have seen a snatch.
Okay.
Believe it or not.
Okay. Then we're gonna
Yes.
talk about Revolver.
Hmm.
That's a similar film apparently. We're gonna talk about what else are we gonna talk about? We're talking about Wrath of Man, which is like
We are, yeah.
another Jason Statham film, and then we've got either the Swept Away with Madonna. Operation Fortune is not out yet, right? So we
Right.
cannot watch that yet.
But maybe it
But
will be. Who
maybe it will.
knows?
Maybe this will. So maybe we will do that. We could do Rock and Roller, which is like just a film I've known about for years due to reasons, but have never watched.
Hmm.
Um, or like any if we see that a film is like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, we will probably do that instead. So what do we expect from these films?
Right. Well,
How
I
do
mean,
we
we have already
expect?
seen Snatch, and
Yeah.
and we know that that's pretty much just this formula, but improved.
Mm.
I'm willing to say. But I do also know that more recent Guy Ritchie films aren't really like this. So I'll say general things I'm expecting from Guy Ritchie, or hoping to see more of maybe, is this um like punchy, high tempo, kind of high pacing type film, and also, crossing my fingers, the witty, funny dialogue stays as well. I think that would be nice.
Yeah. I feel like he'll definitely try to up the complexity in like character interactions for sure.
Hmm.
Like that's what I would expect, right? Snatch already kind of does that. Revolver seems to have like a lot of characters again, but more
That's
like
true.
this,
Yeah.
like kind of, I'd almost say Ocean's 11, right? Where like everyone, like everything interacts, everyone has like the kind of thing, and obviously he doesn't make Ocean's 11 film, right? But it feels like that, where you have like such a big cast of characters and then everything interlinks in a way. I think it would be really cool if he perfects that.
Yeah, I for sure hope he sticks with the whole handling several plot threads at
Yeah.
once. Uh, that's probably what I like most about Lock, Stock, and Snatch.
Hmm.
Uh, I do hear what you're saying about like Snatch going deeper into like actual characters as opposed to one-dimensional like joke producers.
Hmm.
Uh, but we'll talk about that when we get to Snatch.
Yeah, for sure. Um,
I'm expecting Jason Statham to become more of like a big role, right? Like
he
uh
takes more of the like center.
yeah,
Uh,
like he's gets a bigger role in Snatch, but he's still just like a character. I'm
yeah.
expecting him to be like the front and center poster dude,
I think it's funny that if you look at the Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels poster on Letterboxd, the biggest character is actually Vinnie Jones.
as he should be.
Yeah, but like arguably the least important character. Basically, definitely the character who like gets it the best at the end of
Yeah,
the
the
film.
biggest winner for
One of the
sure.
few who actually survive.
That was a fucking massacre in this movie.
Yeah, and then like Snatch again has Jason Statham just off to the side. Obviously, Brad Pitt is in the middle because it's Brad Pitt, right? Um,
Should have been Jason Statham.
should have been. Revolver already has Statham in the middle, though again, just taking up as much space as before. And then if you look at like, you know, the posters for, or I mean, Wrath of Man is probably a very different film, right? And like Operation Fortune, which again looks a bit more like those older films,
Yeah, I'm expecting
has
newer stuff to be like, the John Wick kind of action movie.
yeah, but
Die Hard.
Statham is so good at these films. Like
Yeah,
just
yeah,
right,
like
Crank and like the Transporter are so good at like
yeah, I mean, I'm
doing that.
excited. I love
Yeah.
Statham, and I hope that like we still have like, I hope it's not John Wick. I hope it's Guy Ritchie's John Wick,
Mm.
right? I hope
Yeah.
it's John Wick, but there's a lot of stuff going on, and it's funny and witty and punchy and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. John Wick 1 but turned up to 11.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. John Wick, but we keep interacting with a bunch of side characters and seeing what they're up to, and they're doing weird, wacky hijinks.
Love weird wacky hijinks.
Yeah, and it all ties into each other at the end. That's what I want to see.
For sure, for sure.
I think that's the ultimate modern Guy Ritchie movie.
But he should just make Snatch again.
I mean,
But
yes, but
okay, listen to me. A film like Snatch, but most of it takes place on Twitter.
I mean,
It's just
sure,
it's just Twitter circles interacting with each other.
sure, but do you think he's still capable of making this kind of movie?
I mean, like,
He's probably gone a long way, like as a creator from where he was at,
I don't
right?
know. I mean, a lot of the films he made were just like Disney cash grabs. Um,
Yeah, but like, can you reproduce what you used to do?
I mean, I think he
Like,
could.
could Clive Barker write the Books of Blood again?
I mean, there's a difference between like making films and being a freak. And Clive Barker is
Clive Barker
definitely
never
one of
stopped being
those.
a freak. Okay, never
Okay.
stopped being a freak.
Okay. Which is probably just a good transition into the end, where we shout out once again the Access Cinema Club, where you were once again the guest on a series of podcasts this time.
Yeah. So we've been talking about this for a while. The release of the episodes have been like gone back and forth a bit. Ali is releasing the miniseries I record with him once a week for the entire month of October, and hopefully this episode will be out at the very latest in early October. So either the first episode is out where we discuss Hellraiser, the first four Hellraiser movies, with a focus on the fourth one, or maybe you have that to look forward to. Either way was really fun. X's Cinema Club is really good, and yeah, you should listen to it after this episode.
We should also make a freaky Halloween episode.
We should. I mean, we did do the Blair Witch
Yeah,
episode. It's like pre Halloween, but we should definitely figure out something to do for Halloween. That would be fun.
we've got some films that we're both like, you know, that at least I'm excited to watch and you have already seen, or we
Hmm.
could find other way. Well,
Hmm.
that is for the future. That is for us to know and for you, dear listeners, to find out.
Yeah,
Yeah, thanks for listening. Get excited for more Guy Ritchie.
yeah. Snatch next time.
Yeah, very good film, just like so damn good. uh,
Yeah, yeah. You should watch Lockstock. You should watch Snatch like a bunch of times. Like as many times as you can fit in between this episode and the next. Just like watch watch these two movies.
yeah, that's it, right? Nothing else to say.
No, I think I'm good. I think I'm
Cool.
good. Uh, Back into the swing of things.
Yes, this has once again been Cinema Crash. Oh yeah, we also need to do the XXX Holic episode soon. The film releases on Blu-ray in a week, but that's also
That's
another thing.
yeah. That's it's
Yeah.
good to be back, baby.
All right. See ya. Bye bye.
Bye.